And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he understood these feelings. And he gave him permission to leave. So Bilal ibn Rabah, he leaves the city of Medina. And after some time, after a few years, he eventually comes back. He eventually comes back and he visits the city, he visits the places. And of course he goes to the Prophet Muhammad's masjid. He goes to the masjid and he starts praying. And an old man sitting in the masjid, he sees Bilal and he gets excited. And he tells Bilal, like, can you please give the adhan one more time? Because I miss listening to your adhan. And Bilal ibn Rabah, because of the connection he had with Rasulullah, he wasn't able to give the adhan. It made him sad, it made him cry. So he kept telling the man that, I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't. I can't do it. Right? And at this moment, who walks into the masjid? Hassan and Hussein. Who's Hassan and Hussein? Who are they? Right? The grandchildren of the Prophet Muhammad. Hassan and Hussein walk in, they see Bilal and they get so excited that Bilal came back. And they grab Bilal and they beg him, Ya Bilal. They say the same thing, can you please give the adhan? Can you please give the adhan? And Bilal ibn Rabah, he looks at them in tears and he says, I can't. But that old man says, Ya Bilal, at least do it for them. At least do it for the grandchildren of the Prophet Muhammad. And Bilal himself, when he says the story, he says, I saw the Prophet so much in them. He said, I was so overwhelmed with emotions. But I got myself to give the adhan. So Bilal goes and he starts giving the adhan. And the city of Medina stops. People hear his adhan echoing throughout the city. And they drop everything that they're doing and they rush back to the masjid. It's reported that on that day, people believed that if they walked into the masjid, they would see Rasulullah ﷺ standing there waiting for them. Because the adhan of Bilal was so nostalgic to them. It brought back so many emotions and memories of Rasulullah ﷺ. They thought just by hearing the adhan, they would see him again. And it's reported that on that day, the only day the people cried more than on that day was the day that Rasulullah ﷺ had passed away. Because they missed him. Right? Because they wanted to see him again. This was the level of love from the Sahaba. And the level of love that maybe we can't get that high. Or maybe we can't comprehend it. Because sure, we never met and experienced the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in person. But it's a level of love we can hold to a standard. It's a level of love we can see taking place in a practical aspect by human beings who at the end of the day are human beings just like us. Who, if they can reach those levels, who's to say we can't attempt or we can't strive to even get close? And with that, what I wanted to formally conclude with is a few action items. Ways we can develop ourselves, develop our hearts, and develop our ways to have this relationship with this great man, Rasulullah ﷺ. So number one is to frequently send salam upon the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And we all know that when we send salam to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, what happens? He responds back. And not only does he respond back, but he is given your name. He is introduced to you. So subhanAllah, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, for as many times we say salam, he already knows who you are. He's introduced to your name the way, whatever way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed it. He's introduced to who you are. So for us to constantly say salam, not just say salam as a lip service, but to understand who we are saying salam to and what this salam means, when we dedicate our lives and our tongues and our mouth to sending salam upon this individual, what else is motivation to understand, why am I even doing this? Why am I even sending salams upon this individual? Who is this individual? Let me learn about them. So the number two is to, as stated before repeatedly, is to emulate him. Learn his hadith, learn from his, read his, the constant, or the multitude of records of hadith. Read them, understand them. Understand his sunnah, why he did the things he did. How did he do the things that he did? And both from a religious aspect and even from the aspects of the secular life. the way he conducted business, the way he took care of his family, the way he had a relationship with people. Learn from these and implement it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Qalam, وَإِنَّكَ عَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, in reference to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you are on the highest pulpit of character. So if we ourselves just want to self-develop and increase in our character and increase in our standards of life and become better individuals, who to look at more and better, who to look at with more attention and detail than the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an individual who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says, وَإِنَّكَ عَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that you are on the highest level of character. That if you want to become like someone like that, we learn and study like someone of that nature. 3, removing the desires of this world. Stated in the first ayah in Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us how many things we get caught up with in this world. And sure, a lot of those things are fine for us. But the issue is sometimes we get caught up in these things. They become consuming into our lives. And the best way to develop this pure connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to try to remove any of this excess connection to the dunya. And there's this example I learned, it's my favorite example to explain this, right? And this example essentially goes like this, right? Let's say I give you a glass jar, right? I give you a glass jar. And I give you a pile of sand and a pile of rocks. And I tell you, your goal for this glass jar is to fill it with as many of the rocks as possible. Not the sand, but many of the rocks as possible. So first attempt, what do? First attempt, we fill the jar with the sand first, and then we try to put the rocks. Can we put as many rocks as possible? No. Why? Because the sand has filled the jar first. There's no room for the rocks. The rocks are just going to sit on top of the sand. They can't go anywhere. So then what do? We take the sand out, and we put the rocks first. And rocks, as we know, they don't have matching shapes. They're not like Lego. So there's gaps in between, correct? So we managed to fill the jar with the rocks. And because there's gaps in between the rocks, can we still put some of the sand in it? Yes. If we pour the sand, it will find its places in between the rocks. It will find its places, it will find where it properly belongs, and it will find its place in this jar with the rocks. Brothers and sisters, if they're sisters, this jar is our heart. And these rocks are our love for the deen, our love for Allah and our love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that sand is the love for the dunya. If we fill our hearts with the love for the dunya, then the love for Rasulullah and His Prophet, the love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet and this deen, it won't be able to fill our hearts. It'll just sit at the top. We'll just be able to put it in that jar. But if we fill our lives and our hearts with this deen and this religion and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the love for Allah, then the dunya will find its place. The dunya will find where it belongs. And it will put itself in places where it belongs. But the important part is your heart will still be filled with the love of the deen. And this is my final point in the action I encourage myself first and all of us to act upon is to try our hardest. And at times it definitely gets difficult. I mean, for me, I'm definitely not the first exam to ever look at, right? So speaking from a first-person perspective, it becomes so difficult, right? With work and with family, and I used to go to college, and with college and things like that for anyone who's a student, because there's so many things you have to juggle in life. With so many things you have to juggle in life. But if the one thing we at least strive and try to do is maintaining our connection with Allah, maintaining our relationship with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then all of these things that become difficult to juggle, they'll find their place. And for anyone who has this connection with Allah, for anyone who's had their dua accepted, for anyone who prays and strives to develop this connection, they can tell you first and foremost that it's true. That the problems that they face in this dunya, sometimes they just go away. With the stress and the issues that they're facing, sometimes it just goes away. It finds its place. It becomes easy because of their relationship to the religion. And with that, I conclude, whatever I said that is correct is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Whatever I said is incorrect is from my own mistakes and from the shaitan. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. Jazakallahu khairan again for this opportunity. Like I said earlier, I'm definitely the last person who should ever sit on this, but I definitely appreciate and humbled by the opportunity, and I ask for all of you to forgive me for any of my shortcomings and to make dua for me. If I can leave with one thing, a resource I recently started using to learn about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sheikh Yasser Qadi, he has a YouTube series that's a very detailed and comprehensive look on the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I've never heard anything like it. When I tell you it's good, it is so good. It is such an interesting listen to, and it's already at like over 100 episodes. Each episode about an hour or more, I believe, and I just started it. So it's on YouTube. I believe it's on Sheikh Yasser Qadi's YouTube page. There's a playlist about the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm telling you, it's so good. And I got recommended to listen to this by an individual who, without judge, you can quote unquote say is not the first person I would ever think would listen to something like this. An individual who I personally would not have thought, right? And, this is a shortcoming of mine. A person I would have not thought would have listened to something like this. But this individual, he started listening to this and became so enticed by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that he constantly kept listening to it. Right? An individual who quote unquote say was not as religious, not as practicing. This individual recommended this to me. I started listening to it. So if anyone gets a chance, it is on YouTube. Definitely listen to it. Right? If you don't have the time to sit down and listen to it, what I do is I listen to it on my commute. When I drive to work and I drive back, I play it through my Bluetooth system and I listen to it. Right? And what me and my friends decided to do is, because we all want to try to benefit from this as much as possible, we take turns taking notes. Right? We take turns taking notes on individual videos and we share the notes with each other, so that at least we have a point of reference. Right? So whether you want to do this with your family or your own friends, just on your own time, one resource I definitely recommend listening to learn about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.